Hi there, this is Sarah, and I'm one of the coaches of the Alcohol Free Lifestyle Signature Program, Project 90. I have been working with James and Victoria for the last 5 months, I think now, and I wanted to take this opportunity that James has given me to follow off the back of his latest podcast and speak to why I decided to take action on my alcohol-free journey. So James has kindly given me the mic today, and bravely, I think, as this is quite new to me. And although I've done podcasts with Q&A and with other people, this is the first time I've spoken on one by myself. So I hope to make it interesting for you and to give you some insight into me, into what it was that pushed me to my edge and forced me to take action, and also some questions to ask yourself when it comes to, am I ready to embark on an alcohol-free journey? Because ultimately, I guess if you're listening to this, it's something you've been thinking about or are starting to think about. And it's a question of when. When do I actually take action? Because we can decide that we want to quit drinking, but if we don't do something about it, then it's just a should. It's just a one day I might get onto it. And whilst that can have a certain level of comfort to it, in our hearts, we know we're just procrastinating, and it really doesn't feel that good. So before I get into the body of this podcast, I wanted to remind you as a listener that there is a free copy of the Alcohol Freedom Formula at alcoholfreelifestyle.com/guide. That is something that James has put together for anyone that's interested in learning more, and it's totally free. You can go on and check that out. There'll be a description and a link under this episode. If you are interested in the Project 90 program, which is where we help high performers get long-term power over drinking habits, you can go to alcoholfreelifestyle.com/schedule, where there is also a link in this episode description. I am originally from the UK, and I travelled to Australia in 1999 with a backpack and dreams of living by the beach in the sunshine. Up until my late 20s, I was not a big drinker. My father was a big drinker, so I had observed what it did to him and decided that it wasn't for me. But as I got older and got surrounded by my peers and started to get into life as a young worker in a big city, the drinking came with that. And I started to drink on weekends, but it was never really an issue for me. I always felt pretty crappy on a Monday, but other than that, things were pretty good. And it really wasn't until after I had my kids that it started to get a bit more regular, and I started to notice that I was feeling like a drink most evenings. And even then, I didn't feel necessarily that it was causing problems in my life. Looking back, I now see what a huge impact alcohol had on my life. But it's not been until I've had the clarity and the space and time of being alcohol free that I've been able to fully appreciate the impact that alcohol had on my life and on the life of those around me. So I wanted to talk a little bit today about, how do you get to that point where you just think enough is enough? Like at what point do you decide? Some of us decide earlier and do the sooner rather than later approach. For me, I feel like I kind of got there in that middle range. Something really bad happened. I lost my father, pushed me to the edge with my drinking, and I got to have the gift of observing somebody in their final days. I say a gift because my father expressed regret about not living life to his true and full potential. And we had some incredibly powerful moments and discussions before he died, in which I really woke up to the fact that this is it. This is it. This is my life. There's no second time around, at least not in my belief system anyway. But it was it was kind of like a slap in the face. This is it, Sarah. What are you going to do? How are you going to live? When are you going to step up and become the person that you know you're capable of being? I believe that most people know that their potential is extraordinary, that most people believe that there's a reason they were put here, there were things that they were meant to do, things they were meant to achieve. And most of us spend a lot of time thinking, what if? And watching my dad really acknowledge that he had that feeling in his final days, what if, was the kick up the backside that I needed to start taking action. The reality is, when you're drinking alcohol, you are not present to life. You're not really present. Because any time that you start to feel uncomfortable, any time that things don't go your way, any time that you want to feel better, there's a substance that's an easy, quick fix, and you often go to it. Even if you go to it 5 times out of 10, you're still avoiding reality. And I'd had enough of avoiding reality because there was no growth in that. There was just this kind of merry-go-round. It was boring, frankly, in the end. And I could see that. So I decided alcohol was going to go out of my life for good. I decided the day my dad died. I waited 2 months because I had a little procrastination going on, which I think we all can relate to. And then I went to my GP and I said the words that had been sitting in my heart for so long. And when I spurted them out and said, I'm drinking too much and something's going on and I need to change and I want to change, it was like this relief, this pure sense of relief that came over me. I wasn't hiding anymore. And actually, any shame that I felt around it kind of lifted too, because it didn't seem like such a big deal once the words came out. So I encourage you as you're listening to this to first off, see if you identify with any of the things that were going on for me at the time. Apart from obviously what I'd like to call epiphany of the shortness of life, which we all know, we all know life is short and we can tell ourselves this, but the challenge is, and the power is, in doing something with that information. So on a base level, you're probably, if you're listening to this, getting a bit fed up with the hangovers, a bit fed up with feeling guilt, shame, or disappointment in yourself in the morning after you've been drinking. It's likely you've tried to give up in the past with various different methods, but you always go back to your old patterns. I know certainly I did that many times. I would give up and I'd feel great and I'd be like conquering the world. And then there'd be a party or a birthday and I'd think, oh, just the one, that's not going to hurt. 2 months later, straight back into my old ways. So you might have tried, but you keep going back. You're fed up with the time that you're spending thinking about it. Maybe you're fed up with listening to podcasts that bang on about it. Maybe you're fed up with just the procrastination element of it or the constant internal negotiations that happen. Okay, so I can drink on Fridays and Saturdays because that's the weekend. But then if I start drinking at 12 o'clock, I want to finish by 8 o'clock. And then if I finish by 8, then the next day I can probably start it's exhausting, right? That internal bullshit that you go through, the negotiations. And you're not just having them often with yourself. Sometimes you have to have them with a partner too. No, I didn't. I wasn't drinking. No, I didn't start till 12. And then you start having lies dripping in as well and eroding into trust, into relationships. So there's that part to it. There's also the anxiety, the depression, the low feelings, the apathy that comes with drinking. At least it did for me. In fact, oftentimes I'd have a goal or a dream or an ambition, and I sometimes wonder if maybe the alcohol was my way of holding myself back, like my own self-sabotage. Kind of kept me safe. Anytime I was going to step out of my comfort zone, I would have a drink and just, take the edge off. But take the edge off. It really did take my edge off to the point where I didn't have any edges. I was just a blob. The other part is feeling stuck. And this is huge because I think, certainly I know for me, I was stuck. I was surrounded by drinkers. It'd been a part of my life for so long. It's what everybody did. And I was succumbed to the messaging that had been ingrained in me from an early age. The movies, the TV shows. Anytime you see a mother in a TV show, she's usually reaching for a wine the minute things get tricky. Alcohol is everywhere. We just had it placed in our brains unconsciously. And it's no wonder so many of us struggle with it. And that's a key piece too that I want to get to in a moment, the kind of shame part. Why should we feel ashamed? We've fallen into a really clever trap. So you're fed up with life often. You feel flat, you feel depressed, you've got anxiety, you've tried to give up before, so you also potentially feel a little bit like a failure. You spend a lot of time thinking about it. It takes that some of your mental energy and your intellect is spent thinking about alcohol. It's exhausting. Imagine what you could be doing with that mental energy if you weren't drinking. I can tell you from my point of view, and for those people that I now work with who don't drink, the potential is extraordinary. Looking at people that have come out of P90, the things they're now achieving in life without alcohol. It's an untapped resource, being alcohol free. It's a resource that you can add to your toolkit to improve your life. So the choices that I faced when I decided to give up was, well, I really looked at them because there were three. I identified three anyway. I could stay where I was and do nothing. I could stay drinking. But if I was going to do that, I really wanted to commit to that. I wanted to be happy as a drinker. And I asked myself the hard question, right, to get really honest with myself. Could I do nothing and accept where I was? And the answer was a big, resounding no. I could not carry on in the status quo feeling happy. I could carry on feeling half-assed. I could carry on feeling, life's pretty good. But I couldn't be truly happy and fulfilled because I knew that I was holding myself back with this substance. So that was not an option. My other option was to do nothing and just carry on beating myself up and procrastinating and getting cross with myself for every time that I committed to giving up and then changing my mind. I felt exhausted in that state. Do nothing but beat myself up. That was choice number 2. Yeah, that didn't really appeal. So my third choice, get honest, get real, but most importantly, get excited, because what I realized was that if I was going to see giving up alcohol as something that was going to be really hard and really unpleasant and really restrictive, and something that I was going to have to carry for the rest of my life as this kind of, I'm a non-drinker. It's not great, but I'm just not somebody that can drink. I didn't want to live like that. I wanted to live a full life with passion, excitement, adventure. I'm a rebellious kind of person, so I wanted to feel rebellious. That kind of lighted me up. So I decided to look at giving alcohol up as a rebellious thing, as an adventure. And then the decision was easy. It was like, why would I not? Why would I not choose adventure, excitement, passion, joy, freedom? I started to imagine what life would be like waking up in the morning and feeling clear. I started to imagine what life would be like liking the person that I was. I started to imagine that that was possible, that I could feel proud of myself as opposed to disappointed, that I could inspire myself as opposed to waiting for other people to inspire me. So I decided enough was enough, and that was my point of no return. And everybody reaches that point in different ways. I've seen people who've reached that point because they had no choice, because it was something to do with a legal issue. Yeah, we're going to go to jail if they didn't stop drinking, or their partner was going to divorce them if they didn't stop drinking, or their children were going to disown them if they didn't stop drinking. I didn't want to get to that point. And even though I was not close to that point, I could see the potential for it. So what's your point of no return? And I think this is the question that we have to ask ourselves. We have to get really, really honest. At what point is my point of no return? Because if you're happy with the level that you're drinking and you don't feel that it's holding you back in life, then switch off the podcast and go and enjoy your life as a drinker. But if there is doubt, and if there is shame and fear and confusion and sadness associated with your drinking, then you're ready to look at going alcohol free. And I'm not going to say look at, actually, I'm going to say you're ready to go alcohol free. Now is the time. So I want to add to this that the level of how you see yourself, how you see yourself is so important in this process. How you approach yourself in this is critical, in my opinion and in my experience. Because once I stopped beating myself up and being cross with myself, I felt this freedom and this sense of, and it may sound a bit strange, but camaraderie with myself, like I was doing this with me, for me, by me. And I started to build this relationship with myself where I could feel like I could trust what I was saying. I could trust what was in my heart. I could trust what was in my mind because I had no substance that was blurring my senses or changing how I felt. I was pure, in a pure state to make decisions. And once I reached that point, I stopped beating myself up. And when you're not beating yourself up and you're kind to yourself, you want good things for yourself. You want the best. You want the best for yourself. You want the best for those around you. So the first step that I went through was to really understand and accept the fact that whilst the drinking wasn't my fault and I'd fallen into this trap that we talk about in Project 19, James talks about in a lot of his videos, this attractively packaged poison which is highly addictive, that is brought to us in so many different forms and on pretty much every occasion that we go to as an adult, from a sports game to a movie theatre. It's everywhere, that we can feel a sense of, well, you know what, it's no wonder I got caught, but it's now my responsibility to get myself out of it. And whilst I knew that, I also knew that I couldn't do it on my own. So there's that sense of I'm doing something for myself because I like myself, and now I'm going to try and find some people that are going to help me. Now, back then, I didn't know about anything, any options other than AA or rehab. So I checked myself into a 2-week rehab. It was a huge, huge action on my behalf. I have 2 small children, a husband, and to stick my hand up and say, I'm going into rehab. I'm a business owner, very successful without blowing my own trumpet in any way, but I had a reputation. I had people that I was conscious would make judgments about me. And I just went for it. I thought, again, life's too short. I deserve better. And I went to a 2-week rehab where, if nothing else, I learned where I didn't want to be, where I didn't want to end up. I saw what this substance does to people, what it does to families, what it does to relationships, what it does to people's relationship with themselves. More importantly, that self-loathing that it can create. I don't want to get too deep into that, but it was huge for me to see that, to see where I could end up. So I paid attention. And lucky for me, I wasn't at a state where alcohol had eroded my brain so badly that I couldn't even digest the concepts that they were teaching us, which was the case for a lot of people. And I took so many notes, and I journaled, and I worked and I worked and I worked so hard in those 2 weeks to get to the point that I wanted to get to, which was alcohol has zero value for me in my life, none. And once I reached that point, I found my freedom. Now, that was intensive, and that was 2 weeks, and I was, I guess, at a stage in life where I had absolutely reached the point of no return. Now, fortunately, there's so many more options for people who don't identify as an alcoholic, but they're just stuck. They know they don't want to drink, but they really don't know where to turn. And the options are out there. The options are out there for help. So the thing that I'd like to reiterate is be kind to yourself. First and foremost, know that it's not your fault, but know this, it is your responsibility. It's your responsibility to make the decision and then to take whatever action it is that you know and you feel in your heart is going to motivate you to keep going. It's not your fault, but you need to climb out. You need to find your way of climbing out. So this is the statement that I had kind of developed for myself at the time, which was, I will honor and accept myself and my humanity. I will accept myself wholly, and I will guide myself kindly to be the best I can be for myself and others. And with that statement, drinking could not play a role in my life anymore. So my question to you as a listener is, can you take responsibility for your drinking, but now commit to taking some action so that you can live a happier, healthier life at a 9 or a 10 out of 10 as opposed to a 6 out of 10? Because there's no real joy in that. There's no real joy in just plodding along. Well, maybe there is, but there certainly wasn't for me. Like James has said before in the previous podcast, this is not a journey for everyone. No, this is not for everyone. But you'll know if you're listening to this, particularly I think in my experience, that if you are a high achiever, if you're somebody that has high standards, if you're somebody that sets parameters in your life and sets goals and has dreams and ambitions, that what role is alcohol really playing in your life? It's a question that I asked myself many times, and even more often since I quit, to look back and think how often I used alcohol to self-sabotage, to stop me from achieving the things in life that I wanted to achieve because I was afraid. I was afraid of my own potential. I was afraid of letting myself down or letting other people down. And then one of the beautiful things about going alcohol free is you start to get really, really comfortable with uncomfortable emotions. Instead of reaching for a drink, you look at that emotion, you can see it, you feel it, and then you realize, wonder of wonders, that it doesn't really last that long. The discomfort will come and rise, and then it will fall in the same way that a craving for a drink will come and rise and fall like a wave. You become really conscious and really present to life in full colour. Feel your emotions, deal with your emotions, enjoy clarity, freedom. There's no fear because you're not hiding anymore. I know this all can sound quite a lot, but 2 years alcohol free, it just keeps getting better and better and better. More clarity, more joy, more freedom. But most importantly, this passion for life, this purpose. Because I don't want to die feeling like I didn't stretch myself, feeling like I didn't reach my potential, feeling like I didn't dig deep to find out what was possible for me in my short life. And I think that I see that, I know that I see that in so many others that have taken on this journey. Is it easy? Sometimes not, but nothing in life is. Is it easy to live at a 6 out of 10? Nah, not for me. That just led me to feeling like I was wasting my life. That wasn't easy. So in many ways, it's like you've just got to take the leap, like anything in life. Jump in, all in, because you've got nothing to lose. Worst case scenario, you take a period of time away from alcohol to get to know yourself a bit better. Worst case scenario. And what you'll find if you do this with other people is that there's this common shared humanity that lifts you up, that makes you feel included, that stops you from feeling so alone and disconnected, which can happen when we drink too. It can be joyful as well as challenging. If it was really easy, everyone would be doing it. I don't know anybody who has said to me since I quit drinking, why on earth would you do that? Drinking is the best thing you've ever done. Not one. Most of them want to learn how I did it. Most of them want to learn the skills that I learned in the rehab. Most of them would love to do coaching, and some of them have. Because people know that alcohol is bad for them. People know it's a toxic poison, but it's just got a grip on them like it had on me and like it has on so many people. So I encourage you to take on the information that I've shared from my experience, and ultimately it's time to really get honest. Get honest with yourself about what you really, really want in your life. Because as James was saying, time is ticking. This is not going to go on forever. And there's going to come a point where you look back and think, man, I wish I'd done it sooner. Because that's how I feel. I've worked with people now in their 20s and 30s, and I think, wow, I wish I'd done it then. Because I see their potential, they're flourishing and thriving at such a beautiful young age. And I think, man, imagine where I'd be now if I'd given up 10 years earlier. But then I feel gratitude for the fact that I did it in the end. And now the rest of my life looks so much better, so much more bright, so much more possibility, opportunity. And most importantly for me, to feel that I'm able to help others with that too. So I feel like as my first podcast that maybe I've gone on a bit, so I apologize for that if I've spoken too much or too intensely, but that tends to be my way. But I would like to share with you that alcohol-free living is and has been the best decision I ever made. And now there's opportunities for me to make even better decisions about other things in my life because I have crystal clear clarity. I know exactly when I make a decision that it's coming from a place of pure understanding of what it is that I really want from life. So I'm not here to sell any particular program. Obviously, I'm very attached to the work that I do with James and Victoria. But what I guess I would love for you to walk away with from this podcast is that the decision and the taking of the action are the two things you really need to get clear on. Are you going to stay where you are, happy as a drinker? Are you going to stay where you are, feeling a bit flat and a bit disappointed in yourself, but carry on drinking because that's just what you do? Or are you really going to make a decision? Because there's a huge amount of freedom in that. And actually, once you make the decision, everything else falls into place, and it's so much easier than sitting on the fence, one foot in, one foot out, arguing with yourself. It's an exhausting way to live, or at least it was for me. So thank you very much for listening. I would just like to reiterate that the alcohol freedom formula is available on the alcoholfreelifestyle.com/guide. That's the free guide that you can grab there. And if you liked listening to this podcast, please feel free to share it with others. If you think anyone would be interested in listening to me rattling on. I'd also invite you to pick up the phone or send the email. I think it's send an email or fill out a form in regards to joining the Project 90 group. It will change your life. What can I say? Thanks for listening.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. I want to load you up with some free stuff. If you look in the show description, there's a link there to get my guide, which is the Alcohol Freedom Formula Guide. And in that guide, I will walk you through the process and system for successfully reducing or quitting alcohol. It's the same system and process that I give to my clients inside of Project 90. And if you would like to get your hands on that guide, you can click the link in the description part of this episode, or you can go to alcoholfreelifestyle.com/guide. Likewise, if you would like to be considered for Project 90 to join our community and get some accountability, some coaching, and have fun, achieve some goals over at least 90 days with our help and support, then you're invited to schedule a complimentary coaching call with one of my coaches. You can do that by clicking the link in the show description or going to alcoholfreelifestyle.com/schedule. Now, Project 90 is for over 30s only, and it's really for people who are ready to get long-term power over alcohol. You don't have to quit forever, but you will have to quit for at least 90 days with our support. Just a reminder, 95% of my content is free and plastered all over the internet. If you just Google James Swanwick and the word alcohol, you'll find that. For those of you who want additional support, if you want coaching, fun, accountability, if you realize that you can't do this on your own or you just plain don't want to, then I invite you to schedule that call and we can talk about if Project 90 is for you. If you would like to take some of my supplements, swanvitality.com is the website. I'll put a link in the show notes as well. I have a liver support product called Loving Liver, which I designed and specially formulated to help remove toxins from your liver after years of alcohol consumption. Again, there's a link in the show description. We've also got a green powder there, which turns into a green juice filled with amazing ingredients to support you and give you energy throughout the day. And there's also a magnesium product, which I take every night to help me prepare for sleep and to sleep through the night. So there's a few options there. Lastly, if this episode or the show in general has helped you or supported you in any way, I would so appreciate it if you would write a review. It really does help the show climb the rankings and expose the show to people who don't yet know about us. So if this show has benefited you in any way and you feel compelled to pay it forward, just writing a short little review, hopefully a nice one, will be so appreciated, and I will thank you immensely. Lastly, if you'd like to talk to me about anything at all, feel free to send me an email at james@alcoholfreelifestyle.com. I do read and respond to every email. And you can also follow me on Instagram at James Swanwick. Send me a message there. And I look forward to connecting with you soon. Catch you on the next one.